Where did January go? It's February 2026 already. And the reason it's so important for me to do these videos is that I can look back and I get to a milestone like this and I think I didn't accomplish anything that I wanted to accomplish. And I want to be able to talk about all the things that I've done, but then I look back and I actually start adding up the things that I did, and there were some things. So, but also I didn't get done the things that I'd probably have wanted to get done, which just feels like the story of my life. When you're trying to write and also work full time and also live your life with all the things that come up in life, it just feels like every single day is a challenge to sit down and get the thing done that you want to do. And the thing is, there's never going to be a perfect time, and you are never going to, in my case, write what might even be good words. The thing is, you just need to do something. And this is probably a theme I'll come back to over and over and over again on this show, is that ultimately I think what matters is that you produce as much work that is the best work that you can do in the time that you have, which means it won't always be as good as you want it to be. Because the problem with the market and where we are right now is that it almost seems like it's never about what you did, or the thing that you did is great for, a month, maybe 6 months, and then it's already time for the next thing. So that's hard. Yeah. I have thoughts about art versus work that are prompted by Brandon Sanderson's keynote speech that he did recently, talking about a couple different things, mostly have to do with AI. But the utility of art versus a tool, and AI being a tool should not be admired for being a tool. It does work. But then art exists for no reason. It exists because it has no reason to exist, and people do it because they love and need to experience the journey of creating art. Well, writing commercially puts you in this difficult place where you are sort of producing a tool because you're doing a thing that is meant to be enjoyed and hopefully purchased in a consistent way. And that's the rub right there, is that it has to be purchased. It doesn't have to be, but the thing is, discoverability these days is, it used to be you could put a thing on a website and through Google's magic or other means, it could get popular and people would read it. But today, discoverability is still such a problem. There's so much stuff out there, and the platforms that we need to find people to, experience the stuff we're making are all monetized, and they're incentivized by selling. And so the things that are on those channels need to meet the criteria, or basically the blinders, the guidelines, the channels that have been created. And everything about that channel is trying to mold stuff into the thing that will get more engagement on the platform. And a lot of people are talking about this, like nothing I'm saying is new here, but it absolutely has an effect on what people create. And I have no doubt that there are people out there creating things for the joy of creating it. And I worry that we won't get to see those things like we would in the past. There's this artist named Henry Darger, I might be messing up his last name, who was a janitor that produced this entire body of really out there, kind of insane, I shouldn't call it insane, but definitely out there art. And it wasn't discovered until he died. And now it's kind of seen as this weird American magical realism that only existed within his strange world, and the way that he perceived the world, and the fact that he didn't know and never saw women, but obviously was pining for loving someone. But that kind of thing seems like it's going to be harder and harder to even exist because the platforms are so invasive. And you imagine a person like that with what could be or is this yearning imagination to create something that's kind of amazing and different. But everybody has a phone at this point, and everybody has the platforms inserting themselves in their lives. And I'm going off on a rant, and I don't want to do that. Part of it is that I have really felt my Reddit addiction this month. And obviously the news has had a lot to do with that. Stress in my life has had a lot to do with that. And it's so easy to, instead of reading a book or listening to a book like I like to do, even listening to a podcast a lot of times, it's just so much easier to to open Reddit and surf for those sweet, sweet comments of people talking about things. And I have got to break this habit. And I'm calling it a habit now. It is a habit. And I don't know that it really helps me because it eats up the time when I should be doing the things I want to be working on. So that was on my list of problems from this month. But a few other things that I did accomplish. Let's talk about that. I got a lot of outlining done on the next 2 books. I did a lot of talking with and working out ideas with the 2 co-writers that I'm working with. And that's really gratifying. It's cool to see where the stories could go and flesh out those outlines. And really the thing starts to take shape and become an actual thing. Now, I sort of made the mistake of wanting to try the app Scrivener. And if you haven't tried Scrivener, it's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of writing tools. It allows you to break an outline down by basically to the scene level. And then once you have those scenes, you can move them around. It lets you make templates that are just so granular as far as what can be done within them, set targets as far as writing targets every day. And so I did that, and I created a template for the books I'm working on, and I put a lot of energy into that instead of really focusing on the thing that I needed to do, which was start writing the story. And for me, this is the hardest part of writing any story, which is the opening, the beginning. And already on Advanced by Fire, which is the next military science fiction I'm doing, I've rewritten that first chapter twice now. When probably what I should do is just push through it and continue with the story. It's so hard to really even know what the first chapter should be until you are probably even done with the book. But it just holds me up so much. And so one of the things I really want to do this month is just push through that, just get words out. That's kind of a theme here in general, is just get words out. The words are never going to be as good as I want them to be. So just get them out. I spent a lot of time getting my application ready for grad school, the 2 programs that I'm applying to. The elephant in the room is that I've been having to sell my mom's house. And so there was more work that needed to be done on the house. I spent a couple weekends doing that. And then we listed the house. So working with the real estate agent and all those things that have to be done. I've never been through selling a house before. I was fortunate to buy a house back before things went insane. But I haven't been through the selling piece of it. And probably because we put a lot of work into it, or I put a lot of work into it. When we did list the house, we kind of got a little bidding war happen because we listed it a little bit below what market looked like for the area. Because we need to move it. The other stress that's going on for me is that my mom is down to 2 months of memory care, 2 months to be able to pay for it. And you can't even apply for Medicare until you're down to $2,000 in the bank. So that means there would be a float month, or basically she would pay her last month, and then I got to get that month to get the paperwork done. And so me being the planner that I am, I talked with the business manager at the memory care facility, and in the state of Oregon, at least, it sounds like as long as you sort of have talked to the Medicare intake people and you have that process started, they're not going to evict the person because they know eventually they're going to get paid. But if you don't pay, basically he's like, well, we would start the eviction process. I was like, oh God, that is not at all what I also want to deal with. So that's very stressful as well. So it seems like the house is going to be everything is potentially going to line up. If once we're through closing and everything like that, the house should be sold in March. And so I think we'll be okay. I think she'll be okay. but that's a thing that I've been very worried about. And it just takes a lot of time, and it eats up time. Like I put a camera system down there because I live 30 minutes away from the house. And so while it was being shown, we have Blink cameras, which you can hear people talking through those cameras. And it was kind of surreal to get an alert on my phone, have people walking around talking about my childhood home. And fortunately, they all seemed to like it. I mean, the house is 100 years old. A lot of people said like, well, it's a weird old house and this and that. And, I look at the house and I remember my childhood. I remember all the work my dad put into that house. I remember my parents' divorce and my mom just staying there, gradually filling it up with stuff and, doing her slow decline toward where she is now. So getting rid of the house it will be a huge weight off my shoulders, but it's also just this really weird feeling of I was in that house my whole childhood. I never moved. Now I have moved a lot more in my life than I ever did then, which might be why I have liked to travel and move so much, is because I stayed in one place the whole time. But that thing that was my childhood is gone. And I'm a 50-year-old man and I'm still feeling that. What feels like a thing that of course I did feel this parts of it when I was much younger, but it's just weird how it continues to sort of poke me in the back of my brain. You can never go home again, right? Not that I could anyway. Some other good things have been going on in the background. I have lost 40 pounds since I started taking Zepbound back in November. And it's definitely hit like a slow, the slow inchward down, but it's been pretty consistent about 2 pounds, 1.5 to 2 pounds a week. But it has really changed what I like to eat, which is just so weird. Like I was even, it's funny how my body is doing one thing and my brain continues wanting to like taunt me and tempt me with different things, like go get a hamburger, eat some fries, eat ice cream. And then I have not eaten a hamburger or fries. Like somehow I just can't, all the steps it takes to go to a fast food place and do that. I'll start to do it and then I don't do it, which is good for me. Like that's always been like those things would get worked into a routine, like getting off work or going to work or, going through a drive-through to get a breakfast sandwich or something like that. It's just so weird how those motions become ingrained. And that is just gone, broken. And so that's really good. Like if I have something in the house, I will often eat it, but then afterwards I just don't feel good. And so that has been a big change. And I'm just eating a lot more salad, a lot more, at work, there's a cafeteria, so I can choose whatever I want. And I find myself just drawn to the salad bar. Like I really just want to eat salad and vegetables. So that's a really interesting thing to experience. I mean, I know in the back of my mind, I have to change the way that I eat and how active I am. I feel totally better physically because I can't take this stuff forever. Like they are talking about these medications being chronic, like you could take them forever. Obviously, I don't want to take any medication forever if I don't have to, but I think I need to keep that in the back of my mind that I will have to come off it eventually. If not just because it costs $400 a month, which is a lot of money for me. But the results have been, nothing short of amazing. It does really seem like I could get back down to where I was while I was in the Army or left the Army, and it's really changing. The biggest thing is it's changing the way that I feel about food. So, and food has been such a big aspect of my life, like always trying to eat something if I can eat it, eat as much of it as I could eat. Like it was like alcohol in a lot of ways. Like once I have one drink, I want another drink and another drink until I can't drink anymore, which often means passing out or doing something stupid that I'm ashamed of. And so food a lot of times was very much tied into that. So breaking that cycle has been, it's life-changing. So that feels really good. And it affects everything else. Like I get up to do work so much easier. I can go to sleep. I had a couple nights the last week where I did stay up late. I think that the stress of everything, I've been wanting to play video games again, just to do something, like not to be on Reddit. So we've been watching the show Fallout, which is amazing. You should watch it. And so I started playing Fallout 4 again. because I can just sit on the couch and do that. And that's a thing that will keep me up. But at least I'm not scrolling Reddit. So again, in saying these things, it feels like there's things I did that were good and things that were not so good. So it's probably going to be the story of this month. So some good things. 2 YouTube videos that I made kind of took off. You know, surprise, surprise, an author channel talking about writing things and, you know, vlogging about it, doing it in a podcast format, which is much more talking based, doing it slower with not a lot of cuts. I mean, I'm really trying to skirt the line here between it's a podcast, and I absolutely want to publish it as a podcast as well, and a YouTube channel. And like I was saying, there are things about YouTube that push you to do it in a YouTube way, which I'm just kind of opposed to. I want to do something that is not quick cuts, it doesn't stress people out or push them through the video. Like, if you want to leave this video or stop listening to me, please do so at any time. But 2 of them took off. They were product reviews that I did of this little e-reader that at the time I hadn't seen a lot of things about it. And so I did my best to do a little product review, and now all of a sudden, like, the channel is, you know, a third of the way to getting monetized. And then I don't like even that in the back of my mind, YouTube, the platform throws out this carrot. Ooh, get monetized, get monetized. You could, if you do these things, you will get to this level and then you could potentially make money. But I also, you know, just knowing what I know about writing and like the way Amazon manages their platform, you look at people who are doing this that kind of similar to what I'm doing, and, you know, they'll talk about making $20 a month, you know, and eventually maybe this could be, and it is one of my goals that this eventually could be a little bit of a source of income, but I don't want to change what I want to do. Like, one of the concessions I make about everything is that I have a day job. And so speaking to that art piece of it, it doesn't have to have a purpose. My purpose here is to talk to you and maybe help you in a way that, or share things that I've learned so you don't get stuck in the same quagmire that I do. Your parents are going to get older. That's inevitable, but maybe you can talk to them or get them to listen to you. That's probably the biggest challenge, is how do you get them to listen to you when they're still rational? Because the older a person gets, the less rational they get. That is my experience. So don't expect anybody over 75 to keep your interest in mind. They're thinking about themselves, and that is the way it is in my experience. So it's kind of neat watching the numbers go up. Interacting with people in the comments is fun. It's social media in a way that I enjoy, I guess. Talking about a thing that was kind of fun to talk about. And so that has been fun. That's not a thing that really eats into my writing time a lot, but it does occupy my mind. And I think that's one of the things that I noticed was I had a lot of things trying to insert themselves into my thoughts all the time that were not the writing projects I wanted to work on. And my friend Scott Moon talks about this a lot, that if he kind of loses the thread of a project, it's very easy just to lose it. And then it's so hard to pick it up again. And it is absolutely that way for me as well. You know, the last book, both of them were just such fights because I felt like I would just lose that thread and have to pick it up and pick it up. And once you pick it up, you have to grab onto it again and keep sewing. So that's the thing that I'm going to keep focusing on moving forward. And I'm thinking about some ways that I can do that. So YouTube is doing fine. I feel really, happy with where things are going, but I still need to have pretty strong boundaries on what I do with it and how much of my time it takes up. Because when I am making videos, I'm not writing. So that's always something I want to keep in mind. And then another thing I was working on this month was the grad school application. I had to send out, talk to friends, send out requests for letters of recommendation, work on the application essay or statement, get that done. The fiction samples. I realized in looking at my samples that they felt like they're all kind of on the same subject, which for me tends to be, fiction influenced by the military in some way. And so I wanted to round out myself and do something kind of different. And like one of the schools, I have to submit they want like a nonfiction thing that could be like a book report or something that shows like an academic evaluation of a thing, which is not something I've done for a long time. So I am working on a book review. I don't know why it's taking me so long to write this dumb thing. My mind keeps going off in different places about it, but I just need to write the book review. And then also a creative nonfiction thing that I would like to write that sort of ties together a lot of my recent experiences with my mom and her dementia and what that has been like. And I've written a lot of notes for that, but it's a thing that I just also need to piece together and finish. And also I have to keep in mind that this stuff is just to show me as the work that I do as a writer and who I am. So that it still just takes time. It takes brain space, you know? It's like, if there's another theme here, it's just multiple things pulling on my brain all the time. And Reddit trying to grab it all, grab it all away. So, and I potentially was going to I should just go ahead and say this. I made it into one program by their early acceptance deadline, and 4 days later, I got accepted. So that's a big deal. And that was very exciting. It still is exciting. But one of my mentors, who is a instructor at the MFA level and has been doing this his whole career, like recommended that you still need to apply to the other program. And it's just funny how as soon as the acceptance came through, it was kind of like, oh, now I don't have to worry about that anymore. Yay. But he's right. I need to do it. And also the program I got accepted to is one that did not require as much stuff in the application. So I'm not going to say it was easier or anything, or it's a lesser program, but I got accepted faster. And maybe they set this up this way because they're competing with the other program, I suppose, for, in-state students. So that's pretty awesome. My whole life I have wanted to go to grad school, and it never really worked out for me. And so the idea that I'll get to do that and will eventually have that degree is kind of humbling, actually. Because from the point that I left school and went on active duty, that just felt like that was a door that closed. And there was a point when I was on active duty that if I'd stayed in the Army, I was probably going to go to grad school because I was in what they call a functional area that would lead me into a thing that required higher education. But my life kind of blew up when I got divorced, and so that didn't happen. And then, the whole time that I was co-parenting, like there was really just no good way to do that. So I tried taking classes for a while, and it was just hard. I just realized how hard it was to work full time and take care of my kiddo and potentially do school. So, and the thing is, I've always had a job that paid well. Like that's one of the traps of my career, is that I make pretty good money. And so anything that I might go to school for is never it's not like it's an improvement necessarily. In fact, if I was going to go teach full time, it would probably be, I would not make as much money doing that, so I would have to make concessions in the rest of my life to not need as much money or find money from other sources. So part of my plan with this is that it's sort of a hedge. I'm 50 now. The likelihood, although I work in higher education, so the likelihood of getting laid off is less, but it's not like I have absolutely seen people at my university get laid off or, let go by their department. And it was very difficult for them to find something else. So I have no illusions about that, potentially happening. Obviously I want to do a good job. I like my job, so I don't see that happening, but you never know when you could have a really good situation and things are good for a few years and then management changes or the situation changes. And it's kind of funny because I absolutely track that between my boss and my boss's boss. Like, how old are they? How long do they have before they're probably going to retire? What stage are their families at? Like, how old are their kids? Would they go to school? Are they going to college? Because we all get tuition discounts. So that's another 4 years. We'll definitely have them until their kids are out of the house. And then they might want to go do something else. And now that's a change up in leadership. And it's absolutely a thing I learned in the Army, because there you were changing leadership every 18 to 24 months. So it was constantly this game of figuring out like who the new boss was going to be and who they were going to bring in and what those people were like and how much of a, I won't use the language I typically would use, but how much of a jerk those people were. I mean, we went from one battalion commander when I first got to my unit as a captain who just would regularly pull the officers in and just yell at us, just yell at everybody. And he'd have no clue what he was yelling about or what he was mad about. And he would denigrate, like use personal attacks on people. And then he left and we got a much kinder person, who was one of really the great leaders of my life. And it was really funny because all the mid-level, like the majors in the unit were like, he's a very nice man, but that does not mean you can take advantage of him. And that has always cracked me up because he was a very kind man, but a very good leader who absolutely knew his stuff. So I'm on a tangent again, but that's a thing I think about. And so if I have only 10 years before I could, or 15 years, 15 to 20 years, I'd rather think of it as 20 years, but at 20 years, I'm definitely getting into the zone where there's like I don't want to say a target on your back, but it's time you really got to think about other ways you might make money. And what I want to do for that last period of my life. So this is laying the foundation for that. And again, it's just a thing that I've always wanted to do. So that the fact that it's kind of working out, or it will work out, is pretty awesome. So how am I going to get these things done that I must get done? Limiting distractions. Again, I've talked about how I created different users on my PC that's in my office so that I sit down in the morning and the PC is not even open to other stuff that could distract me. It's in the writing profile. The Word document is open. It's time to start working. Speaking of Word, I'm going to move away from Scrivener because Scrivener is just extra mental friction that I don't need. And I'm just going to get back into Word and start adding to the word count. That is what I'm going to do. When it comes to the nonfiction submission, the book report I need to write, I just need to get a draft of that done. I've started it. I need to finish it. I also need to do that for the creative nonfiction submission, go through my notes, get that written. Both of these things don't have to be longer than about, 2,000 words, which is nothing. It's very little. So, and then how to get past the first chapter Boulder is what I'm thinking of it as on these two books. And that is what it is. Like, sit down and just get something out, write something, keep going forward. So that is my plan right now. I've been able to get up in the morning. I've been getting up, early, getting out of the office, working, or at least sitting down and being in a place where I could work. But that's also a huge hurdle for me too. Like, just the fact that I'm getting up or creating that time to write. If you can do that, that is 80% of it right there. And now the rest of it is just mental. Just get rid of all the friction, get to a place where it's nothing but you and the words, or you and the thing you're trying to do, and just start moving forward. I'm saying this to you as much as I'm saying it to myself. So yeah, that's what I'll be working on. And I can't believe we're already 1 month into 2026, but that is the aspect of our lives moving forward, right? Yeah. And I don't know, try to not focus on the news as much as I have been. Things move so fast and update so fast. It doesn't seem like it serves me to read it, minute by minute by minute. It's better, it really is better to look at it, every day, if not every 2 days, but see how much I can do that. All right. I hope that your writing week goes well. And if you've got things that you're working on that you want to talk about, I'd love to talk about that in the comments, or ways that you might be trying to get past your obstacles. I would love to hear any ideas, but hands-on keyboard, butt in chair seems like the thing that never ceases to be the key. All right. Well, I'm going to do some writing now as well. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you next time. Later.